All right. So the history of nutrition. So this is something that I borrowed from the 7-day raw detox webinar, and I did that with their permission. So I just really want to run through some of this because I found it quite interesting myself, because we haven't always eaten how we eat these days, because grains were introduced into the diet after the appearance of stone tools, and refined grains were made available after the invention of automated rolling and sifting devices. Milk, cheese, and other milk products were introduced with the domestication of livestock. Meat consumption increased with animal husbandry, further increased with the advent of technology that enabled grains to be efficiently fed to cattle to allow them to fatten up really quick. So, and who knows what they're feeding our cattle these days, or all animals, to make them grow really fast so they can get them out into the marketplace really quick. So we'll talk about that a little bit further on as well. And then sugar consumption has risen since the Industrial Revolution as well. I only put this slide in literally 20 minutes ago. And it's pretty interesting that they finally came out with a brand new healthy eating pyramid here in Australia. And I'm probably going to say that it's about 20 to 30 years too late. And I know this is going to get outdated quite quickly. So the main things that I want to point out are maybe when this old pyramid was done, then yeah, we probably could eat that way. But foods are processed so differently in the last sort of 10 to 15 years, with companies like Woolworths, for example. I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, they released a press statement that they would accept genetically modified foods, which can't be good for us as humans. So even if you are thinking that you're buying fresh foods from Woolworths, for example, then chances are that they're genetically modified, although they should have the sticker on there if they are. So it's just the way the foods have been processed over the last few years, and we're finally caught up. So it's good to. So if we look over to the left on the new one, got some really good stuff down the bottom. Literally, if you lived off the stuff on the bottom, then you'd probably never get sick. If you ate enough food, you definitely get in all your micronutrients, all your nutrients, all your proteins, amino acids, everything, if you ate a wide variety. Something that I find quite interesting about the new pyramid is that they have healthy fats above the processed foods like your milk, yogurt, cheese there on the left, and then all your meats. So it's quite interesting to me, but we'll see what your opinion is in about 40 minutes time at the end of this webinar. So I call this the caveman theory. So if you think about it, back to time, however many years ago, depending on what your beliefs are, do you think the cavemen, really went after all the meats and the burgers and Sundays and all that sort of stuff, or were they sort of in the more natural type diet where they ate whatever they could from vines and trees and underground and whatever they could find at the time? So what you need to understand is that almost all foods we eat, after digested and absorbed, are either releasing an alkaline or an acid base into our blood. So ideally, we want our blood to be alkaline, because if it's in an alkaline state, then it's not prone to diseases. So grains, fish, poultry, meat, cheese, milk, salt, particular types of salt, they all produce acid. So the introduction of all these foods over the past few years into the Western diet meant that our Western diet became more acidic. But at the same time that happened, so as these foods came in, because they were coming in really cheap, the price of all of these natural foods started to go up. So we started eating less of those foods as well, which made our diet become even more acidic. So sort of everything's just happened in what you could say, like, it's just happened without our control over the past few years. Something that caught my attention doing the detox, which some of you guys probably heard in my YouTube videos, was just over 110 years ago, there was a total of 12 diseases in the entire world. For those 12 diseases that are in the entire world at that time, there were a total of 7 plant-based medicines. Now, depending on which source you look at, one source says there's over 10,000 diseases, registered diseases. Another source says there's over 100,000 registered diseases. And for those diseases, there's over 500,000 chemical-based medicines that suppress symptoms. So we're spending all of this money on research into disease, and the numbers have got out of control. So that's another quite interesting point there. So basically what I'm getting at is we need to alkalize, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, but first we need to be aware.